And that, my friends, is 51. We'll get started. It is 1:45 Eastern Daylight Time, which means that there's people out there right now who think it's noon or who haven't gotten up yet. Of course, depends on where you are. I actually like daylight savings time. I know some people don't, but it's one of those things. I kind of like it. So going back to the top, Dave Beddoes checking in from White Rock, BC. Thank you, my friend, for checking. Kevin in New York, Keith, Richard, Stephen Shaw, and so on. And by the way, I think it was somebody you mentioned above about it showing that it was set for 10 p.m., not 1 p.m. So I'm not sure what that's all about, but yeah, I can tell you that where I am is 1 o'clock. It's, it is, 1:45 right now. But when I go into YouTube to set it, I actually have to guess what time zone they want me to do it in because it's never the correct one. So when I set it, I actually set it for noon YouTube time. I don't know why that is, but Matthew Shostrom said me suddenly going live made him jump. Hauptmann 6, afternoon from Kazoo. Thank you for checking, my friend, from Kalamazoo, one of those fun town names I like to mention so often. And of course, Hauptmann would be the German pronunciation. The other day I said that something happened in Schaumburg, and I purposely over-enunciated the first syllable, Schaumburg, because that's how the Germans would probably say it if it was a German word. And I got some people who corrected me and said, Steve, it's Schaumburg. And yeah, I know that. It's kind of like I said Detroit instead of Detroit. But, not all my humor is seen as humor by other people. Dixie Champagne, Steve, what is up? Thank you for using the complete formal English and not making a contraction out of what is, such as what's up. Paula Heuser, could be pronounced any of those ways. I apologize. I'm guessing Heuser, but again, what language? I don't know. UAE in the house, United Arab Emirates. Thank you for checking. I love when people check in from far away. Mark Doherty, my Sunday work lunch party. Mark Heil, morning, Steve. Thank you for checking, my friend, from over on the left side of the country. Brian Ekdahl, 3.14 a gallon for Arco unleaded in Lacey, Washington. And of course, 3.14 is today's date, as well as the first few digits of pi, and often referred to as Pi Day, March 14th. Scott Argyle, hey, Steve from Salt Lake. Johnny Quest, whatever happened to the atomic clock? I think it's still out there, just as interesting as it used to be. Retired Butcher Boy says California has voted to stop daylight savings time. It's funny. A couple of years ago, nobody complained, and suddenly it became a big thing. So, Ed McDonald, zup. That's the way you make it in one syllable. Graham Mills says, hi, Steve. I missed the start. I'll go back a minute or so and watch it all. 16:47 here, UK time. Go back in time, see what already happened. It's not me 07. Hey, Steve Lehto and all from Plano, Texas. Brian Ekdahl, Steve, what old school hot rod would you trade your Viper for? I can see going for like a Hemi Cuda, or I actually love the 70 Roadrunner, 70 GTX. The 70, not the 69, not the 71, the 70, preferably with an air grabber. But even so, I like my Viper. I took the Viper out yesterday, by the way. Had sunny blue skies promised all day. I got up, it was still dark out, and got in the car, got rolling. It was 21 degrees out, but it was planning on being close to 50. And I went down to the Cars and Coffee, or parking at Pastiners in Birmingham, Michigan, the town I grew up in. And these guys, Steve Pastiner and his dad, own a business. It's a bookstore gift shop, but it's all cars. The biggest collection of books you'll see in North America at 14 Mile Woodward Avenue. And a huge group of people show up on Saturday mornings between 8 and 10 and bring their cars. And I went there 2 or 3 times last year and went down there yesterday morning hoping other people would show up, and they did. It was a lot of fun. So talked to some very, very cool people about some very, very cool cars. 55 Sidell, have you ever sued an exotic automaker like McLaren, Lamborghini, or Ferrari? I'm not sure that I have. I know other attorneys who have, but there's such a small number of those cars on the road. I don't think I personally have. I've, BMWs, Porsches, but nothing crazy expensive that I can remember. So, The Fuse Man, ever thought of playing any of your DJ tapes on YouTube? I've thought of it, but I don't like the idea of doing it. I'll tell you why. What disc jockeys do is supposed to be very, very um, non-permanent. It just happens. It's wispy, right? And so if you hear a disc jockey say something funny, it's funny the first time you hear it. If you hear it a second time, it ain't funny. You hear it a third time, it's annoying. And so my concern is that if I put it up on YouTube and you listen to it, you might go, hey, that's kind of fun. If you listen to it again, you go, that's stupid. And I just know that that's how it is. So I have a hard time listening to my tapes more than once also. So, Tiger Man 99515, Steve, will the Viper maintenance be sort of normal or more like expensive exotics? Well, no, it's not expensive exotic in that sense. I was talking to my good friend Ed Bolian of VinWiki, who signed that sign before he gave it to me. And there's some more videos that are coming up of me on his channel. But Ed's got a Lamborghini. And we were talking about maintenance costs. And he goes, routine maintenance, they tell you got to adjust the valves every 15 or 20,000 miles. And I said, that's kind of convoluted. And he goes, it gets worse. He goes, you have to remove the engine to do it. I said, okay. And he goes, once you got the engine out, you may as well do the clutch pressure plate and throw-out bearing, right? And I'm like, I would assume so. So it's kind of like, if that bothers you, don't buy a Lamborghini. But when you buy a Lamborghini, you're just going to be burning money. But the Viper, it's a Dodge, so it's got a couple unusual things, like it's got the aluminum block, which means it takes a different kind of coolant, but it's nothing crazy exotic, So my friend Mark, who owns Nostalgic Motoring right there, who is the one who found me the car, he also has mechanics on staff who are very, very talented working on high-end cars. So I'll have him do all the work. So even though I took it out yesterday, my goal is one of these days, I'm going to bring it to his place and have him do all the maintenance, do a tune-up, and get it ready for the summer. So that will happen very, very shortly. Thomas Rogers, I forgot to set my watch. It's actually one of the first things I did this morning is I reset the Breitling. So got it correctly. Dwayne Smalls, I love you, Steve. I love you too, Dwayne. Thank you for checking in. Oh, it jumped on me again. 90 knots. Do you ever guest DJ anywhere? I guest DJ'd on a radio station, not last year, but the year before, and I will be doing that again in the future. I'd like to do that again. And so I will make announcements on that as appropriate, because what I'd like to do is I'd like to drag my rig in there and live stream like I'm doing right now, but turn the whole thing sideways and be on the radio so that my audience can watch me DJ, and then people in the audience they want to can log in and watch what's happening at their local radio station. It's gonna take some effort, but I think it's doable. So there you go. Michael Goodwin, your video today of the judge accusing the defendant of driving the vehicle. Is a judge allowed to directly insult a defendant like that without consequences? Well, that's I called attention to that. I didn't really spend much time on that because the judge actually called the guy dumb. And the judge was reacting to the fact that he thought the guy was calling in from a car that he was just finished driving. And the judge, I don't think the judge should have done that. I don't know if it'd be grounds for appeal or not, because it sounds to me like the guy could have gotten a lot worse. He got 2 days in jail when he pled guilty to driving on a suspended license, which could have gotten him more. So, but more likely than not is somebody could file a complaint with the Judicial Tenure Commission in Michigan and say, hey, this judge is acting very, very unjudicially when he calls somebody before him dumb before knowing all the facts. And that's why it bothered me. I'm not familiar with that judge. It's been a while since I've handled anything in that courtroom, a couple years. But it's not a court I'm really familiar with. But I was a little surprised by that. So JJ CEO 40, when do you break out the metal detector? Believe it or not, I have to wait not just for it to get warm enough out, but the ground has got to warm up. So I was walking in my yard yesterday, and you can still feel that underneath the grass, it's rock solid. It's like grass covered in concrete. So it's got to be warm enough to dig before you can go out. So I'm guessing about another month or so. Now, if you get a really good warm spell and a couple rains and some more warm spell, that might happen a little faster. So, Todd G, have you ever gone back to any of the stations you worked at before? You mean gone back and visited, or I haven't DJ'd at any of them. A couple of them no longer exist, or at least not in the same form they were when I was there. WLEW Bad Axe still is, and someday I'd like to go back there and visit. I've actually dropped in once and visited 15 years ago, maybe, and they still play music, and there's still people there from when I worked there before, believe it or not, 40 years ago. But I worked in Saginaw next. That station's not there anymore. I then worked at another station in Flint. That station's there, but not playing the same format. I worked at a FM station in Flint called CK105, which is still there, but it's totally new management, slightly different programming. Not too crazy about that. I worked at a talk station in Detroit called Wow FM, which is no longer talk. Now it's Young Country. Radio changes. You turn around and they're done. So Peter Mandix is springing forward in Lone Tree in a blizzard with 12 inches of snow so far. I saw an article on the internet this morning that said something about how they were expecting like 20 inches of snow in Colorado. 20 inches of snow. Oh, that hurts to think about. Tina Burgess, happy Pi Day, 3.14159. Thank you. Con Clark, why can't we fall back at midnight on Halloween, giving us an extra hour in the bars? People do wonder about that. I remember, the springing and falling always happens at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And I actually knew guys who were doing overnight shifts during that. And if they were working a 6-hour shift, they might lose an hour or they might gain an hour. And they'd always have to make a note saying, work from midnight till 6, but daylight savings time, I get an extra hour, because they're paid by the hour. Brian Ekdahl, would you play some 80 hairband music? If I could, absolutely. A little bit of Poison, maybe. Bon Jovi, does he count as a hairband? Or does his band count as a hairband? Lisa, hi, Steve, from Lisa, Morgane, Zeus, and Athena. Some very, very grand names there for the animals. Assuming those are animals. They might not be. Some of them animals. Larry S., guess you're not into root beer. Actually, I like root beer. Haven't had it in a little while. I like IBC root beer, which is a root beer that comes in glass bottles. They have it at the grocery store, but I hate returning the bottles. It's just a pain. And there's actually a couple A&W stands I know about not far from where I am right now. And I might do a chance. I might do a visit one of these days. Not sure if I take the Viper there. I don't know if I want to hang anything on the side of my car or not. Tom, hey, Steve, I checked the VinWiki numbers. Your Lemon Law video is 388,000 views. Better than any of the recent ones, including the bikini video. Great job. Well, thank you. The Lemon Law video is doing pretty well. And it's hard to say what is good for somebody else's channel. Those would be great numbers on my channel, but he had the video about the bikini dealership or bikini car wash or something. But that's one of those ones where it might do well on another channel, but I'm not sure if bikini stuff does that well on car channels, strangely enough. JJCEO40, did you know Michael Moore when you worked in Flint? No, I did not know him, never met him. Michael Moore, believe it or not, at one point in time did work in radio in Flint at CK105. But he also worked in journalism for the Flint Voice. If you saw Roger and Me, that's mentioned in there. And then also, if you watch Roger and Me, the movie, there's several references in there to WTRX Radio, which is the station I worked at. And a couple other things. There's a scene where they're burning Money Magazine, because Money Magazine called Flint the worst city in America to live in. And in the scene are two friends of mine, a guy named Michael J. Thorpe and a guy named Scott Barner, who I saw the movie for the first time in California. I'm sitting in the theater. And I'm like, I know them. So Brian Ekdahl, Cinderella, of course. I got one of their CDs. So Bend Over AC/DC. Yeah, AC/DC, of course, is one of the mainstays of classic rock. Brian Ekdahl, A Little Rat, RATT. They had the Out of the Basement World Infestation Tour back in the mid-'80s. I kid you not. Zachary Rivera, all the way from LA. Hello. Jordan Alsop, hello from Sarnia. Again, checking in from Sarnia. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Sarnia, of course, across the river, across the border counterpart, Port Huron, Michigan. 55 Siddell, what is the worst example of to hell with you, I'll find a better attorney backfiring on a client you have seen? I'm not sure if I understand your question, but I can't remember if I've ever told the story before about I'll summarize because I may have told the story in a video. I had a woman come in and see me and want to hire me for something, and she wanted way more than she's entitled to. It was crazy, the amount of money she wanted. And so I said, look, I'll only take the case if you'll be reasonable and only want the money you're entitled to, because I'm not going to file a crazy lawsuit. We went round and round, and finally she goes, fine, I'll hire you. And now this is a contingency case, so she's not giving me any money or anything. And then I come in my office next morning, and there's a blinking light which indicates a voicemail. And I listen to it, and it's her, and she goes, I've changed my mind. Since you aren't willing to do what I want you to do, I'm not hiring you. You're fired. So, okay. So I sent her a letter saying, thank you very much, but just to confirm that you sent me or left me a message firing me, I'm no longer your attorney. And about a month later, I came in again and found a voicemail message on my answering machine, and it was her. And she says, I don't know how you did this, but I've been calling attorneys consistently since I fired you. And every single one of them who refers me to somebody tells me to call you. And she thought I'd done that. She thought I went out and told people to call me. No, it just that I was well known in that area for handling those kinds of cases. So Code Fruit 04 from Pontiac. Is that Pontiac, Michigan? I talked to a guy yesterday from Pontiac about a business he's got in Pontiac, of all things. Brian Ekdahl, Dokken. Well, I think is it Dokken or is it CK? It's been a while. Bike Bowling says, Steve Lehto, do you think AI-based insurance companies will have a meaningful impact on resolving lawsuits involving fraud, or is it just hype? I have not studied that much myself. The interesting thing about the insurance industry, and it's about time that the insurance industry got shaken up. A disruptor needs to appear. Because right now, the insurance companies, all they do is advertise on price. All they do is they advertise on price. Here's what we charge. We charge less than the other guys. When all that really matters is, do they pay claims? How good's their coverage? And so, larger insurance companies with more customers should be able to do a better job on the actuarial end of it and figure out what the costs and benefits are and so on, and figure this stuff out. I worry about small companies that don't have a big enough base yet to spread it out, but there's got to be some way to do something with insurance other than, we cost less than them. So Mighty Mouse Girlfriend says, how is any American court lawful when the counties, cities, and state have closed the law libraries to the public? Zoom is illegal prosecution. Two different things there, but let's get back to the law libraries. Most states' laws are online. And I've if you spend the time and you actually want to do legal research, you can take a look at this. And for instance, in Michigan's laws are in these blue books here, the Michigan Compiled Laws, MCL. So the Lemon Law is MCL 257-1401 at SEC. And so if you want to look up the Lemon Law, you can go to a law library and pull that book off the shelf and read it. Or you can go on the internet and type in Michigan Lemon Law, MCL, and it'll pop up. So I'm not sure about all 50 states, but I've had so many people call me from other states saying, Steve, what do you think the law is in Oklahoma on this? And I'll type in a search term and I'll get it. And I'm like, here. And they're like, well, how'd you find it? I'm like, Google. Google is your friend. So, but the broader answer to your question is that I don't know if there's a law that requires anybody to provide you access to law books. The courts that have them do that, as a favor. Most libraries have got law books also. And I don't know if your local library is open or not, or they've got rules because of COVID. But D. Wood, hi, Steve. Happy Daylight Savings Time Day. Thank you very much. And to you, my friend. Michael Goodwin liked that. That was a good to hell with you. I'll get a better lawyer story. Juna Ju or Yuna Yu, how you doing? Pretty good. How you doing? By the way, it's Ilya in the house. I know Ilya often joins us from Sweden. I had a discussion with my parents yesterday about how to pronounce his name because Finns are notoriously polite and will not correct you when you butcher their names. So Oh, Madam Lestrange, Iron Maiden. There you go. How about a little Motley Crue? Motley Crue, right? Kickstart my heart. Jibamiro Attic B, I'm butchering your name, not on purpose. Did you see the story about the stolen playground slide? Yes, I did. And that's a great story, but I can't really do a video on it because it's only funny if you see the photograph. And I don't have rights to the photograph, so I'm not going to do that. But some guy wanted to entertain his kid and just went and stole a slide from the playground that weighed like 400 pounds and installed it in his son's room. He got caught. It's kind of hard to say, oh, I found it, So, crazy story. Brian Echtel, how old are the tires on your Viper? They were installed less than 1 year ago. The Viper came with the original tires on it. They were 21 years old when I got it, or 20 years old when I got it. But I swapped them out immediately. So Matthew Sjostrom says, as someone of Swedish descent, I can tell you it's a whole Scandinavian thing concerning not correcting names. For the most part, and I agree with you. And I actually had a discussion with my parents yesterday. When I was growing up, there was a woman across the street who spoke Finnish. Out of the blue. I mean, in Birmingham, Michigan, my parents speak Finnish, and there's one woman in our neighborhood who speaks Finnish, and she's this old woman who lives by herself, but her last name wasn't Finnish, and I never stopped to think about that. And so yesterday I said to my parents, I said, I'm curious, the woman across the street was Finnish, right? But and they said, oh no, but the name you knew her by was her married name, and her husband had passed away. I said, oh, okay. And the funny thing is that her son's name was George. That's what everyone called him in America. They called her son George. And she called her son Yortzi. And my mother and father had said his name was probably Irho, and I'm probably mispronouncing that. But the point is that George is an American English type word name, and Yortzi, I think, is the Swedish version. And apparently her husband was Swedish. So I guess his birth certificate said George, but the mother and father called him Yortzi, but the Finns who knew him called him Irho. So again, bend over, twisted sister, of course. Coinzilla says your sign says P. Some people pointed that out, that on the speed limit sign with a big X, the S and the D are redacted, leaving the word P, as in P-E-E, but that is just a coincidence. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, it jumped again. Hang on. Welsh Dragon 99. Isn't there a band called Unnecessary Umlauts? There should be. Oh, 90 knots. No one can ever pronounce my last name. But what language is it in? I mean, technically, I mispronounce my last name all the time. And the Finns always kind of look at me and go, you do? I'm like, I don't speak Finnish. Margaret Chase, my mother-in-law, spoke Finnish. She taught me how to say Terva Tulua. It's like welcome or something. Forgot. I only know like 3 words. Mitä, which is what? What? Steve, do you think daylight savings time should just stay put now? I wouldn't mind, and I don't mind moving it back and forth, because I understand the idea that if you left daylight savings time as it is right now, in the middle of wintertime, it's pitch black when kids are standing waiting for their buses. So, what are you going to do? Blue Oyster Cult and Motorhead have the umlauts if you want those, according to 55 Sedell. Good point. Sorry about this. My glasses are getting out of control. And I unfortunately, I'm to the point now where I can barely read that. I need to get a bigger monitor on my desk. Margaret Chase says that's correct. It was welcome. There you go. Bob blah blah says, Steve, please explain why it's time to make the donuts. I made the donuts. No, it's time to make the donuts was from a Dunkin' Donuts commercial, I believe, right? Originally. And I said that the other day. I forgot what video it was or what I was talking about, but that commercial was around. I think I used it for a while. They may have even brought it back. But Hupman 6 is being from Alpena originally. It was dark waiting for the bus anyway. That's true. Gary Weisenberger, have parents drive the kids to school. You know, what gets to me, and you have to understand what I'm getting at here. I'm not saying that no parents should ever drive their kids to the bus stop, but in the neighborhood I used to live in, not the one I'm in now, but the neighborhood I used to live in, there was a bus stop right in front of my house. And there were dead-end streets going three ways from in front of my house. So the bus would come basically to this intersection of these dead-end streets, pick all the kids up, do a U-turn, and head back out again. There were people who drove their kids 100 feet to that intersection. Not on cold days, not on rainy days, all the time. The mother and the kids would get in the car. They would drive 100 feet and wait for the school bus. School bus would come, kids get out of the car, get in the school bus, and then the mom turns around, puts your car back in the driveway. And I used to watch that, and I'm like, the first couple of times I thought, well, maybe there's something going on. No. It would have been shorter to walk diagonally across their yard, but I don't know. So. Ah, boy. JP Boylos checks in. Hello from Columbia, South Carolina, dealing with the yellow snow of the South right now, which is the pine tree pollen. And yeah, it's interesting. We forget how much pollen the pine trees kick off. I did a trip up the Tequamanon River a year or so ago in my canoe. And as we got away from the lake, the surface of the river was covered with this yellow dust. And it was pretty interesting. Exit the maze through the sun, east into the sunrise, says Steve. Have Jay Leno sit in on one of your videos. Let's see what he knows about law. I have a feeling it's not a whole lot because the guy's a comedian and a broadcaster and a car collector, and his knowledge of those things is obviously encyclopedic. So, Dan Drace says, hi, Steve, listening to the live feed as I drive back from Michigan after a photo gig in Holland. Cool. I hope I don't distract you too much. Don't want you to put it in a ditch or something. Brian Ekdahl, Kiss. The question is, if you're a Kiss fan, do you like the song Beth? I like the song Beth. But as you know, all heavy metal bands have got to have at least one ballad. And the question is, if you're the real headbanger, are you upset they put out the ballad? Matthias says, our English teacher was from Scotland. He promised a bottle of whiskey for anyone who could pronounce his name correctly. And I'm assuming this is in Germany, right? So there's always going to be, when you have like an English speaker, I think might have a better stab at it. Although I guess, Scotland, who knows, all bets are off. Brian Eversole, Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. Hoedown. Oh. About 99 Ninjas says, do you look into lawyer misconduct situations in Michigan? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I've done videos about lawyer misconduct, and I have also reported more than one attorney to the State Bar of Michigan for what I believed was misconduct. But I don't generally go out and study it or anything like that. It depends on what crosses my desk and so on. Dan Low Fat, doesn't all metal start as a ballad and end up deathly? No, not necessarily. Oh, by the way, guys, to my 2 or 3 Finns in the audience, I got to congratulate you on your Eurovision entry. Blind Channel is the Eurovision entry from Finland this year. It's a little more raucous and loud than I suspect that some of you guys would appreciate, but I think they're going to do well. They sing in English for one thing, but I was pleasantly surprised. I ran across that the other day, and I actually I actually downloaded it and bought it. So Willie Harrell says, I remember skipping school to go to a machine shop that rebuilt engines. I mean, did they let you watch, or are you just hanging out, or what? Nigel Carruthers, Emerson Lake and Palmer, brain salad surgery. Irving Briscoe, I went to French school, and my grade school gym teacher was German and weighed over 300 pounds and spoke French with a German accent. That's got to be pretty entertaining. Remember in Saving Private Ryan when Tom Hanks meets the guy who's going to be the translator? And he goes, son, how's your French and German? And he rattles off not just he can speak both of them, but what dialects he can speak them in. It's like, okay, dude, calm down here. So, G. Vogt, do you like Jim Gaffigan? You know, I'm not a huge fan. I've seen some of his stuff. I know people are really, really into him. Not really that much. Michael Goodwin's now checking it out on YouTube Blind Channel. Like I said, check out their Eurovision entry. I think it's Dark Side, but it's a very good. Fuse Man, fanfare of the common man. There you go. Willie Harrell says, I hung out and did some of the work to learn more. Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, we used to hang out at the gas station at the end of the street, and I wound up working there. So, Digger 96, the only Finnish I learned was kiitos, mitä, and sauna on tilha. Well, kiitos, mitä, like I said, is what? Kiitos is thanks, right? And sauna, of course, is the hot room you sit in and sweat. Toby Kenobi and others have asked about a conclusion on Crazy Town. There's not been one yet, sorry. Someday I will explain everything. B. Demon says, I took auto shop with a girl who dressed like Joan Jett. And that right there is every 15-year-old every 15-year-old's fantasy when he signs up for auto shop. Doesn't work out that way. Daniel Kessler says, I like Jim Gaffigan because there's no cussing. Yeah. I understand the guy can work clean. That's good. It's actually harder than working unclean. JJCEO40 says ABBA won Eurovision, and they did. I forgot what year, but the Eurovision is basically a battle of bands for all the European countries. And they've been doing it for a long, long time. And they've discovered some pretty cool stuff. And Michael Goodwin is now listening to Dark Side by Blind Channel. Hey, I didn't say the song was clean. I just said I liked it. I thought it was good. Douglas Brown, hello from Little Rock, Arkansas. Good friend of mine lived in Arkansas for a while. I taught at the university down there. I've not been to Little Rock, though. Scott Baker, King Crimson, my friend. Yes, you rock with saying that. Robert Fripp, of course, and Tony Levin. I spoke about Tony Levin here before. Tony Levin is a wonderful bass player who was one of the guys in King Crimson. And he's toured with a bunch of other people and recorded on hundreds and hundreds of other albums. But he also played bass for Peter Gabriel. So if you're not familiar with Tony Levin, look him up. Good guy. Dan Lofat, Seinfeld works clean as far as I know. I believe you are correct. It's one of the things about him. I actually don't like Seinfeld's stand-up as much as I like the TV show. And there's a difference. Because obviously the TV show's got characters and it's presented as a, sitcom than just the stand-up. So Donnie D says the album Brain Salad Surgery didn't have that song on it. It was on another album. That's been a situation. I'm trying to think of some examples, but there have been a few where a band puts an album out with a certain name on it, and later they have a song by the same name, and people assume it's not. And it always annoys people somewhat. Welsh Dragon 99 says Wales came out of full lockdown yesterday. Traffic's been mad the last 2 days. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. In Michigan, the vaccinations are ramping up, and I think I can actually get mine anytime after about a week from tomorrow. I'm signed up, so we'll see how it goes. But 55 said, oh, what would make you regrow your beard? It's kind of funny. People will go back into these old videos of mine and go, wait, you had a beard 2 years ago. And I did. And I don't know why. It just never felt right to me. I was okay with the way it looked, but it just felt funny. And I did it for a while. I'm like, you know something, this ain't right, and I took it off. So I probably won't regrow one, but we'll see what happens. Margaret Chase must go. All take care. Wear your mask. Stay healthy. Ciao for now. Well, thank you for spending time with us that you did. I appreciate that. Gerald Thompson, hello from Leesburg, Florida. I grew up in Lapeer, Michigan. And Lapeer is basically, imagine halfway between Detroit and Bad Axe. I used to drive through Lapeer all the time, back and forth. STJ, what's the stories behind the car models on the top shelf? You must be new. Dodge Viper, I own one. Tucker 48, I wrote a book about Preston Tucker. Dodge Daytona is a winged car. I wrote a book about the winged cars. Chrysler Turbine car, I wrote a book about the Chrysler Turbine car. So 3 books I wrote in the car I own. There you go. Betty Boop, Fu Manchu. Now I just said the whole full thing, and I trimmed it. I wasn't going to go for the ZZ Top look. I don't know if I could do that either. So, Daniel Kesters, a Canadian robot lady, checked in. She might not be checking in today. I got a note from her beforehand. So, Mark Hoover, sorry I'm late. Baby wouldn't fall asleep for her nap. Are you telling her that my voice doesn't put her to sleep like it does everybody else? I'm just joking. Kyle Rice, love your content. Well, thank you very much. It's not me. 07 says, send Steve a model of the car you want him to write a book about. Oh, boy. STJ says, thanks. I am new because my law practice keeps me busy. Where do you practice law? I got a law practice too. Oh, Blaze and Cyrus says, hello, Steve Lehto and friends. Chrysler Turbine book is great. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Tom says, Steve, I remember when you talked about your viewer stats. I'm just curious, has your average viewer age changed much? I'm not sure if I can get the stats on this phone as easily as I can get them someplace else. No, I can't. They're pretty much the same, but they're close. At one point in time, my channel was 95% male, 5% female. And it's shifted a tiny little bit to where now it's 97, or no, 93% male, 7% female. So we picked up a few more women. I don't know if they dress like Joan Jett or not, but we picked up a few more women. So Ben Dover, what year was the Dodge your brother painted? My brother painted for me a 1969 Dodge Charger, the same year as this car right here, without the wing and the nose cone. He painted it bright yellow in a tribute to the Dirty Mary Crazy Larry getaway car, the second one they drove. JP says, what you think about J-Lo and A-Rod splitting up? Nothing. Zero. I don't care. I can tell you one thing, though. We discussed Meghan Markle last week briefly, and I don't want to go into a whole tangent on her today, but somebody floated the news recently that she's thinking about running for president. Now, I don't think she understands that to become president, you have to get people to vote for you. And I'm not sure how many people would vote for her as a presidential candidate, but David M., didn't you have a Daytona? No, I'd like to have one, but I just had a 69 Dodge Charger, but no wing. Brett D., Pat Benatar lookalikes will do. Gary Weisenberger, on March 16th, I'll be 61. I am male. Well, that puts you right in the meaty part of the curve on my channel, my friend. The average viewer on my channel is a guy between 55 and 65. That's the most prevalent demographic. David Peterson, Joe Walsh ran for president. How many votes did he get? So did Pat Paulson. 90 knots. My care factor of Markle and J-Lo non-existent. Tim Boer, what's your favorite car movie? Now, that's a good question. I'll admit I am not a big fan of the Fasts and the Furiouses. I've seen most of them, and I don't like the idea of it. Like it's like live action comic book stuff. Cars are jumping around and flying and stuff, and I'm surprised they don't turn into other beasts. So I actually did like Dirty Mary Crazy Larry. I know that's a little goofy on some level. Vanishing Point's a classic, but there's a few out there. I mean, technically, American Graffiti is a car movie, right? They spend a lot of time in cars. Raymond Leonard, if I send you a model Fiero, will you write a book on it? I bet there's been books written on the Fiero. Someone asked me about writing a book about the Viper, and I said there's already like 3 books on it, so that's why I wouldn't do that. Richard R., I'll turn 80 in August. Really? Congratulations, my friend. Tim Boer says American Graffiti, and like I said, it's a great car movie. Blah, blah, blah. Does it concern you that old men are attracted to you? Well, if they're attracted to me, I consider that a problem. If they simply watch my show, I've got no problem with it, because that's how the media works. I'm not sure if I really would want a audience of nothing but 18 to 24-year-old women. For one thing, they want to talk about Meghan Markle, and I wouldn't want to. Gerald Thompson's owned 5 Fieros. Wow. Todd G. I used to work at an airport and never recognized any celebrities except for Charles Barkley. Wow. Yeah, I know that occasionally, if you walking through airports like LAX, you might just see someone famous walking through. They fly too, so... DJ AM says, sincere apologies for dragging your average age stats. I'm turning 70 in September. Rico Kemp says, we're only attracted to his mind. I think it's pretty much true of everybody. So, James Marlowe, did you try Frank Kleps's turbine car? I got a lot of emails about that. I should address this on some level, because a turbine car went up for sale about 10 days ago. And I got a million emails from people saying, Steve, there's a turbine car for sale, What many people didn't know, and I knew this at the time, is the car had already sold. And the collection of cars that was owned by Frank Kleps, who's passed away, passed to his son. His son had it for a while, sold 1 or 2 cars, and then he consigned the rest of the collection to an auto auction, a high-end auto auction. They posted a bunch of stuff for sale on the internet, but almost immediately they got apparently a buyer on the turbine car. And so the turbine car was sold. And I was getting all these emails going, Steve, buy it. Well, number one, I don't have that kind of money. And number 2, it had already been sold. So it's been sold. So I hopefully will be able to do a detailed video about this in the future with everything I know. So we'll just have to sit tight on that one. Johnny Quest says, I'm 60, but identifies as a 25-year-old. Isn't that true? Michael Walker, Mr. Steve, it's not a car movie, it's a motorcycle movie called On Any Sunday. I've not seen it. Sean Malay says, I'm a 50-year-old male in Lexington, South Carolina. I own a 66 Charger with a 440, and I lived 15 years in Walhalla, Michigan. That does not ring a bell. Mother was born in Saginaw. I love your show. Of course, the 66 Charger is the first generation. The generation before this, 66, 67, both had the fastback and the flat grill. Well, hold on, Walhalla, Michigan. I gotta check, make sure, it could be a typo, but I'm always curious about places I've never heard of before. Walhalla, Michigan. It's in Branch Township. It's off of 10, not far from Scottville and Custer, Michigan, west of Baldwin. Whoa, out near Ludington. Okay, I've never heard of that town before. So thank you for adding in another word to my lexicon. Dale Miller, doesn't Jay Leno have a turban car? Yes. He let me drive it. I'm one of the few people on this planet who can say he's driven 2 Chrysler turban cars. There's only 9 left in the world, and not all of them drive. So if I play my cards right, I might be able to get that up to 3. Fred Crotto, anybody here bracket race? Not that I know of, but it's cool. ZKR99, my YouTube account is linked to a shared email with my wife. How does that affect your stats? I'm not really sure. I'm not even sure how they figure that stuff out, because sometimes if you log in, it'll ask you, that information, but I think you can sometimes leave it blank. People can lie. And so I think sometimes they also try to figure out what you are based on what you watch. So some of it might be guesswork. Dixie Champagne says Walhalla, South Carolina is where Georgia teenagers go to get married. Wait, can't teenagers get married in Georgia? I thought any place down south, teenagers could get married. Nomentum says, I guess only 3 people saw Death Proof. I've not seen it, so that might be correct. Jerry Brown, does YouTube money keep you from receiving stimulus money? I don't know if it's the YouTube money, but Diamond Auto Parts Wisconsin says Hanoi Rocks is a hair metal band from Finland, and I love them. Day late, $1 short, man. They were a band. I think they could have been bigger than they were. There was the incident where one of them got killed in a car accident with somebody else from another band. So I don't know much, not as much about that. But I also know that they've got obviously a huge following in Finland, but they got a huge following in America as well for a band from Finland. John N., has anyone seen The Fastest Indian? I have. Great movie. Isn't it about a New Zealander who brings a Indian motorcycle to the Bonneville Salt Flats? Keith E., when you start your year 8 of your videos, why don't you do Lehto's Law 101 as a refresher for new viewers? I did do a frequently asked questions. The problem is no one's got the patience to sit through it. So they'd rather just ask the questions. And I get asked a lot of questions over and over again. So I just try to space out the answers. Blaze and Cyrus, is that the actual sign from Cannonball Run? No, it's not. Ed Bolian gave that to me as a parting gift from being on his channel. Blah, blah, blah. Any comments on the crackdown of sharing passwords? Netflix. Everyone knows you just find somebody who's got Netflix, you use their password, and you can watch Netflix. And Netflix has finally figured that out. And so now they're going to start doing a thing where they're going to check to see how good your password is. And they might start dinging people for sharing them or shutting people down or using them. It's unclear what they're going to do, but they're obviously going to do something. And they've rolled out a beta program that puts up a warning screen telling you that, you might not be able to use the password. So, and Sherry M says, yes, Vince Neil, who was involved in the accident with the guy from Hanoi Rocks. It's all very, very faint memories. Rico Kemp, Steve, how do I convince my wife I need a Lehto's Law t-shirt? That's a tough one. But that shirts and coffee mugs are available on Zazzle. And with respect to Zazzle, people complain, they go, Steve, Zazzle's overpriced. I'm sorry. But they were the only real place to do this where I could just put it up and forget about it. And so I've said that I make money off it. I'm going to donate the money to charity. I've given away one check already to some cat rescue in Ohio. And I'm at like $107 right now. So I got probably another 6 months or a year before I have another $100 to give away. And I will then too. So Johnny Quest says, I think Lehto's Law is about due for a hate mail show. And Jason Johnson says, I missed Steve's Friday rant videos. The problem with him is that those videos don't do that well. The hardcore audience likes them, but they don't do that well. So I've given up on doing them. I was tempted to do one today because I got a bunch of hate mail this morning, emails. I get emails that are just I will literally open up an email and it'll go, "You're an idiot." I don't, and they start ripping on me. So I'll write them back and go, "Sorry you think that, leave me alone." And they'll respond to that by going, "Oh, so you're gonna be rude to me now? You just called me an idiot. I can't tell you to leave me alone. Me telling you to leave me alone is not rude if you're calling me an idiot." And so that exact exchange happens about once a week. I had a guy this morning call me a liar. Call me a liar. And so I wrote him back, just leave me alone. And in fact, let me check. I'll bet you anything. I've gotten an email back from going, I don't understand. Why don't you want to be friends? I just called you. Nope, guess not. Maybe he'll honor my request and leave me alone. So, but it's fun to make the videos, but if they don't get enough views, I won't put them up. Daniel Kester, did you drive a turbine car that Mark Lieberman had? Mark Lieberman and I both got to drive one of the Chrysler turbine cars owned by Chrysler. They still own two. And we shot a video together, and I put that video up. I put some video that I shot up on my channel and another video that went up someplace else, I think, about that occasion. Very, very cool. So, Ed McDonald says Ford versus Ferrari is an excellent movie. It is. It's got some issues with the facts, but that always happens. But it's a very good movie. I like Matt Damon a lot. And so Ford versus Ferrari is very good as far as a Hollywood car movie goes. Mark Hoover says, do them as a bonus video. I've been thinking about setting up a second channel and putting up stuff that I don't care about. I don't care if it gets monetized or not. I might do that. So, Michael Goodwin says, I do not like the complaint videos because you're giving legitimacy to people who are certified idiots. Yeah, and that's part of the problem. I also wondered if people didn't send me emails trying to provoke me, But I do have a collection of voicemails that I've saved that someone left me, and I'm torn about doing a video where I tell the story with these voicemails. It's a real borderline call. Robert Baca, where is your 1970 Dodge Charger model car? What model is in its place? I had a 69 Dodge Charger model that somebody sent in to me. It was plastic. And unfortunately got broken in the mail. And I had it on the set for a while, but I had a hard time because I couldn't get it to stay straight because the way it was broken. And I felt bad because it was such a beautiful little model of the car I had in the correct color. But right now, I think it's off camera. I'm not sure, but it's around here somewhere. I do plan on shuffling through stuff once in a while. H. Kelly is checking in from Yokota Air Base in Japan. Thank you for checking, my friend. Gary Weisenberger, where did you go to law school? I went to law school in Southwestern University School of Law, Los Angeles, in a program called the SCALE program. It's an acronym, SCALE. And it's a 2-year law program where you literally start law school in July of 1 year, and 23 months later, you graduate. So it's under 2 years to get out. But the pass rate when I was there was 50%. One half of the class dropped out. T. Wool, hi from Hull, UK. Thank you for checking, my friend. Well, Bill 57 says, thanks for moving your head so we can see Ben. I forgot where I put him. A minute ago, I was looking, where's Ben again? I don't remember where I put Ben. Blaze and Cyrus, if you have haters, you're doing something right. Well, that's actually true. And one of the things that I have to tell you is right now on my channel, I've got 169,808 subscribers. 169,808. And so on a video that gets 2,000 comments, right? That's 1,000 per 85,000, or 1 out of 85, right? And then out of the comments, 1 out of 100 hates what I'm doing. And you have to remember that 99% of the people who watch the videos never email, never comment, but they watch. And so the number one thing that matters is people watch the videos. And so if you spend too much time focusing on the, you can't spend too much time focusing on the comments under a typical video or even the emails you get. Now, I tell people to email me if you have story ideas, and I like that. I get 100 emails a day from people who say, Steve, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And I appreciate that. But when I get the ones that say, hey, you're an idiot, stop making videos. I mean, I've actually people say that. Stop making videos. Like someone will sit down at a computer and go, I just watched your video. You need to stop. Stop making videos. Oh, okay. So you're one person who watched one of my videos and I should just stop. Okay, cool. And you wonder, like, where does somebody get that notion that they can actually make that demand of a stranger? So Steve Brennan says, I thought law school was 3 years. Yeah, usually it is. Law school is based on credit hours, though. And so a school can, if they want to, compress everything together with no breaks. And so most traditional law school programs, you go for 2 semesters and you take the summer off. 2 semesters, summer off, 2 semesters, graduate. And during those summers off, you're supposed to go clerk someplace and learn some more about the law by doing. And what Scale did was you don't get any time off. The end of the first semester, boom, you start the second semester. Boom, and so it's straight through. They give you, I think it was 2 weeks off between the years, and that was it. And it was grueling. It was grueling. And so, I did it and enjoyed it. But like I said, half my classmates didn't. So Grumpy Australian says, greetings from down under. It is 4:41. Wow. Dixie Champagne says, I've lost count of how many times I've watched the one where Steve says General Motors with a Southern accent. What is, I have no idea what that means. Welsh Dragon 99 says, there's a strange disconnect between online and real life, which makes people behave as if you owe them something. And what's worse is that people have no qualms about typing stuff into a computer they'd never say to a person's face. And so people write an anonymous email and go, hey, you're an idiot. And I say, leave me alone. And they get all bent out of shape. It's like, you wouldn't say it to a stranger that you saw on the street. Why would you type it to a stranger? That's just weird. So Michael Goodwin, I did the same in college for accounting, 3-year program in 2 years. Well, I can also tell you that I did my undergrad in 3 years. And my undergrad, of course, is a 4-year degree. And I did the same thing where I took 16 credits in the fall, 16 in the winter, 8 in the spring, 8 in the summer. And those 16 become, another semester basically. And I did that to get through in 3 years. Tony Furtado would love to see more sovereign citizen videos. I'll do them when they come up. But one of the weird things that does kind of bother me is I don't know who does it, but somebody takes my sovereign citizen videos and posts them in the groups of sovereign citizens. And about 6 or 8 hours after they go up, I'll get a flood of people who are all upset and irate about and it's never people I've heard from before. And they're all upset about it. And sometimes I'm like, it's like, I find the topic fascinating, but I'm not trying to stir anything up. So 55 Sidell, what pizza toppings do you get? I like the typical pepperoni, mushroom. I like ham. I don't mind pineapple. I like the Hawaiian pizzas. I've had some good ones of those. I've also recently had a good barbecue pizza from, was it Hungry Howie's? Maybe Hungry Howie's. Barbecue sauce and pulled pork on a pizza. That's actually pretty good. But there's actually some good pizzas. Buddy's Pizza in Detroit's very, very good. I like them a lot. Cottage Inn is a pizza place in Michigan also. They might be out more now, but they started in Michigan. But generally speaking, I tend to not like the Little Caesars or the Domino's of the world because they're just it's it's like somebody spray painted a piece of cardboard and called it pizza. So, Sherry M says, I'm a paralegal working from home, and these videos make me feel like I'm back in the office listening to the attorney's stories. It's a lifeline. Thank you. Well, you're welcome. If you like me to, I'll throw out some stuff once in a while. I'll talk about Dram Shop and AutoNeg and some, providers, and we'll talk about, jury selection, a few things. Just not actually talk about them. I'll just throw the terms around. Steve Brennan, thanks. What do you not gain by not doing an internship? Well, the internships, the clerkships that people do in law school are often how they get their foot in the door to get a job. So let's suppose that you went to law school for 1 year and you had really good grades. You would then go and interview at a bunch of law firms and try to get a summer clerkship. And if you clicked really well with somebody or the people at that firm, they might say, hey, something, keep your grades up. We got a job for you. But on the other hand, if you clerk someplace and hate it, you might go, this is not what I want to do for a living. And you might, in the second summer off, go work someplace else. And, so I couldn't do that in law school. I graduated from law school without any of that kind of experience. So that's how it hurts you. But I thought, well, I'm going to graduate a year early. I got a year to find a job, right? So that works out. But, it all depends. And I know some people who didn't get jobs out of their clerkships, but it was probably the highest percentage thing to go with. Mark Heil, pineapple. I'm unsubscribing. Now, what's funny about it is I'm not saying you've got to eat the pineapple. And I'll tell you right now, if I see a pizza with black olives on it, I get angry. But I won't quibble with your right to eat black olives on a pizza. I just don't like them. I also don't like egg salad sandwiches. So if, my mom used to make egg salad sandwiches, and I would tell her, I say, well, you got to make me something else. I won't eat that. I refuse. And I had a brother who loved egg salad sandwiches. And so my mom would say, well, what do you guys want for lunch? And somebody go, egg salad sandwiches. And I go, no. My mom would say, well, everybody else, I don't care. I can't eat that. Okay. So Daniel Kester, not like anchovies. I'm not sure if I've ever had anchovies. I just know that they just, something about them it messes with my head. So 90 knots. I did my summer associate clerkship with a major league sports team for a sport I really don't like. It's kind of funny. I remember students. I actually had a student who told me, I go, what are you going to do when you graduate? And he goes, I'm going to go into sports law. And that's like saying, I want to produce movies. It sounds easy to say, but it sounds like a lot of fun, but it's hard to do. And what's funny is I jokingly said, I go, how are you going to do that? And he goes, I'm already clerking with a firm that does that. I'm like, oh, okay. In his case, he can, but it's not something you walk out of law school, hang up a shingle and become a sports agent. Not for the average person, so. Half Nelson, Steve, please talk about the RPM Act. I got an email about that. May have been from you earlier today. I'll take a look at it. So. Lee Dobbins says, I just bought a new house on 10 acres. It has 2 old home sites. Can't wait to medley tech the land. What state are you, my friend? I'll bring my detector. Robert Hodgins, guess you weren't the favorite son. Well, no, my mom would actually make me something else. She knew if she's breaking out that egg salad, she's making me something else. Oh. Jordan also, hey, Steve, do you trust any fuel additives in the store shelves? I don't use any, so I haven't done much research on them. But I can tell you that, I had a lot of people asking me about how I stored my Viper for the winter. My Viper is only stored from basically November, December, January, February. So for 4 months. And so I parked with like 3/4 of a tank of gas, trickle charger, but it was in a heated garage. So it never got below 55 degrees. And every couple of weeks, I'd go out, fire it up, get it up to engine temperature, move it around a little bit, and then put it back where it started and put it in a different spot and shut it off. And when I pulled it out yesterday and drove it, it was fine. So put new gas in it, ran the old stuff out of it, and we're good to go. My number one concern is getting flat spots on the tires. Obviously, you don't want to kill the battery either. I had a trickle charger on it. And you also want to make sure that you can move it around enough to get the transmission gears all good and lubed up, and the same as the differential. But car's fine. So, but I did not put any stabilizer because I've had experts tell me both things on those, yes and no. 90 knots. I took the Viper out yesterday, drove it down to Birmingham for cars and coffee, put probably 100 miles on it. And I'd actually had it out a week earlier, just drove around a little bit. So. Patriot Lightning. How do you decide what shirts to wear for your videos? Will you wear one of my custom shirts to send it to you? My number one concern for a shirt to be worn on video is it's got to be a double XL. If it doesn't fit me, I won't wear it. And I know people go, but Steve, you're that big. Well, I'm tall. I'm 6'2". But also, some XLs will fit me, but some don't. So this is a double XL. It's a little bit big on me, but it's close enough. And Ed Bowling gave me this T-shirt. So if the shirt is the right size, I prefer a dark color, black, dark blue, maroon. But I've worn some bright colored shirts, but I don't like white shirts on camera. Don't look right. I've got lights right here, bright lights. Okay, you can see the shadows. And because of the bright lights, if I'm wearing a white shirt, it screws the exposures up. So I don't want to do that. And then also, it can't be something controversial or obnoxious. Okay, so I don't know if anybody's ever sent me anything that's too controversial to wear, but I've had people ask me, and it's like, I don't want to get into politics, for instance. So someone sent me once a Pedro for president. Well, I wore that around the time of the election because I think we all wanted to vote for Pedro. But I won't wear anything overtly political or controversial. But if it's a business, I'll wear it. If you have a business selling auto parts, for instance, and you got a T-shirt, or you run a shop and you've got shirts, send them my way. I'll wear them. I don't care. And it's not advertising. You're not paying me. I'm just wearing the shirt. And so I get requests now quite a few times. In fact, I'm now getting them from people who are saying things like, Steve, if you'll feature our product in your video, we'll pay you $1,000. And I say, I'm really sorry, but I don't use that product. I couldn't endorse it. What am I going to do? I've got this thing here. It's really good. I like it. You should like it too. Widget Co. I couldn't do that. So, if you see me wearing a shirt with a name on it, I'm wearing it out of goodwill. I'm wearing, not from the people who donated the shirt, but I mean, just somebody gave it to me and I'm wearing it because I just feel like wearing it. So I will, in fact, wear a shirt. My address is at the end of every single video. It says, send Lehto's Law correspondence here. And about once a week, twice a week, I get T-shirts in the mail. They go into the rotation back here. They work their way across. They come out. They go back in, and that's what we do. So, Scott Baker, glad you stay away from politics. Thank you. That is a specific thing I do. S.W. Ramon, would you wear a puffy shirt? No, I would not. I don't want to be a pirate. Oh boy. Tom, do you worry about shrinkage? Well, if it's a double XL and I wash it one time, it should fit just right. Oh, Leandro Garcia, would you wear an InfoWars shirt? What's really funny, that's actually a very good question, because I've worn the Art Bell shirt many times. Art Bell was a broadcaster. He passed away, but he was a broadcaster who's known for having some, he would entertain people on his channel. He'd have people on his channel that had some outlandish ideas, but his whole thing was, hey, look, come on here, we'll talk. I don't care. Well, respectful discussion. The problem with InfoWars is I don't think that Alex Jones even believes what he's saying. I think he's just stirring the pot. So I would not wear an InfoWars shirt. And again, I respect the guy on some level because what he's doing works. But, Daniel Kester, I like your meth shirts. I got complaints, though, about how often I was wearing them because I had 4 different people send me shirts. I had 2 that were black, one that was blue, and one that was green. And I mixed them in. And I had several people go, Steve, these things are in like every other day, So I pulled them out for a little while. They're getting a rest right now, but I'll bring them back eventually. Mark Heil, I went to get my sports car smogged yesterday to renew the plates. They couldn't do it because the stats were cleared during COVID. I need to drive it around for 100 miles with expired plates to restore. I know a little bit what you're talking about. I assume you're in California, and you've got to take your car someplace to get a smog test done on it to get a certification that you then take to get your license plates at the DMV. And I lived in California briefly, and I remember doing that process. And I also remember friends of mine telling me, Steve, if your car won't pass, I know a guy who can make it pass. And all they were going to do was just hand me a thing saying that they tested my car. So Toby Kenobi is a t-shirt rotation once every 2 years. Well, I think it's 85 shirts on a rack, but I do have the rack that has the shirts that are going through faster. So let's see, 85, 42. So you might see a shirt once a month or so, but then you'll see some shirts that disappear and some that pop back in. So, we'll see how it goes. It's not Mio 7. It's always good to know a guy. Yeah, but it also shows you how easy the system can be gamed, Leandro Garcia, how do we get Joe Rogan to invite Steve Lehto on? Dude, if you can figure that out, you'd be my hero. I'm pretty certain it was viewers of this show that told Ed Bolian about me, because Ed Bolian contacted me, but I have had several people tell me that they sent notes to Ed saying, look at Steve Lehto, have him on. So Nick Barchet, hey, Steve, how you doing? Thanks for checking in, my friend. Motor Breath says you have to reset the monitors in the ECM before it's ready to smog. Okay. Dixie Champagne says only have seen a blank t-shirt on the Sunday chat. Yeah, I've also worn shirts with collars and buttons on occasion, but that's crazy talk. Steve Brandon, do a video from a beach with a drink with a little umbrella. The problem is to do a high quality stream like this in a remote location takes a lot of equipment I don't have. I've done live stream videos for roadandtrack.com from like the Woodward Dream Cruise, but to do that, I actually have a guy with a camera and a broadcasting setup that it's equipment that I don't have. I'd love to do that though. Exit the maze for the sun, east into the sunrise, who's got the longest name today. Wear a tie with a t-shirt. No, I wouldn't do that, but I have, however, I have shot 2 or 3 videos where I'm actually wearing a suit and a tie because I came back from court and I walked by the room and I said, hey, why not? I got one on, may as well prove it. So Dixie Champagne says green screen. Yeah, well, that's actually something I've looked into a little bit. I like my background, but someone else has pointed out to me that if I wanted to, I could just photograph the background and remove it and green screen it, and I'd have more space back there. Vicky Clark, how long does it take for tires to go flat when a vehicle is parked? It's going to hinge on a lot of things, like how much the temperature changes. Because if it gets really, really cold and really, really hot, and really, really cold, I think the change in temperature would play into that a little bit. Tires, by their nature, do lose air over time. You'll often see a car that's been parked for a few years with flat tires. But on the other hand, the water, the air, the tires in my vehicles, I actually have a compressor, a little portable compressor with a digital readout on it. And my Viper tires were fine. Didn't lose anything over the winter. So William Burnett, is that water that came from Flint, Michigan? No, this is Ice Mountain. I'm pretty sure it came from that right there, that icy mountain right there. It probably came out of a faucet in New Jersey, actually. FDSS says, I've seen some good... where'd it go? Hang on. It moved on me. I've seen some good phone-based live streams. I'm not sure, because the problem I have with it is that I'm assuming, are you still working with a microphone that's on the phone? or how you doing that. So, hungover pilot, ever been to Drummond Island? Yes, several times. Drummond Island's very, very cool. In Michigan, go up north, cross the Mackinac Bridge, hang a right on US 2, go all the way over to the eastern end of the Upper Peninsula. Little town called Detour, and then there's a little channel, and there's a little island called Drummond Island, and you can get over there by a ferry. It goes back and forth, and it's a neat little island. It actually has been occupied by European descendants since at least the early 1800s, and so there's stuff there from a time when the British occupied it, and it's got a lot of neat history, and it's just a very, very cool little corner of the state that is very interesting. I had a good time out there. So, a lot of deer too, by the way. I saw herds of deer on Drummond Island that were just insane. So, Joe's 1952 Chevrolet. Do you have nitrogen-filled tires? No, I've got mine filled with air. Gary Weisenberger says the water could have come from the west side of Michigan. Yeah, I forgot who it is. This is Ice Mountain. I forgot. Is this Nestle or is this? Because I think it's Nestle that does, in fact, pump water. Yeah, Nestle Waters of America. That pumps water out of the ground and sells it bottled. But I know that some of the bottled water you can buy at the store is just out of a faucet, in essence, from New Jersey. So, exit the maze, et cetera, et cetera. I once delivered a truck from Pittsfield, Massachusetts to Iron Mountain, Michigan. Did you go up across the Mackinac Bridge and over, or did you go through Chicago? Because either way would be probably about the same distance. I think it'd be more scenic to go up through the UP. But Joel Vargas, howdy from Connecticut. Thank you for checking in, my friend. Nick Barchet says you can go through St. Ignorance. Bond, James. I watch to maintain my skills at spotting $100 bills. It's not that hard today. Roxanne says you can hook up a mic to your phone for live streams. Yeah, but I assume you're talking about like a lavalier or something that you'd be able to plug into like the bottom of your phone. That one of those things. I have a fetish for this thing. I like the big professional mics. Yeah, Walter White reminds us that people from Michigan often do this and they tell you where they live. And I know people who think that that's odd. But if your state was shaped like your hand and someone goes, where do you live? You wouldn't go, well, I live in the northeast corner. You go, no, I live up here. It's so simple. But there's some people who think that's weird, but it's the greatest shorthand ever for something, So I think the people in the other states are just jealous. Or the people who live in Florida know that the body part they would like to use, they can't talk about. So oh boy. Well, Bill 57 says wind noise is what makes live streams unwatchable for me. That's one of the problems with shooting anything outdoors. I do my videos where I drive around in my car or I go out in my canoe, and I've got to be very careful because I want to use sound off one of the cameras. I've got to have at least one that's someplace that's protected. Otherwise, the wind noise just destroys it. So, CyberDoc, better late than never. Thanks to everyone who helped pay my bail bondsman today so I could make the show. Kudos from Richmond, Virginia. Matthew Shostrom, did you get the update on Judge Brennan 2 weeks ago? You mean about her being disbarred? I did a video on that, yeah. Unless something happened since then. Dan Lofat says, Steve, now there's a nice Bluetooth module that you can use with a Pro Mic and XLR and Bluetooth to your phone that's quite good. But at that point, aren't we just... how complicated must we make it when we just say, bring the rig out and make it work? But Jason Johnson, Steve has great audio so far, no complaints, thank you. Scott Baker, is Detroit Dragway still open? That's the one I think is closed. I think that one's been closed for a while. But I'm not as sure about some of these things. I do plan on trying to get up to Ubley, Michigan this year, up in the thumb of Michigan, and possibly even take my Viper out for a couple passes and see what happens. Nick Barchet, KMXT 100.1 FM, Kodiak, Alaska. Former DJ commented about skim tapes. Did you notice everyone seems to say and thoughts. Yeah. And what he's talking about is that the DJ said that listening to skim tapes is how you learn what you're doing right and wrong, to pay attention. And you'll discover that a lot of verbal tics won't be obvious to you until you hear them back. And a lot of people will start phrases or segments by, and we're back, and that was so-and-so, and this, and that. And once he heard it on the skim tape, he realized, I've got to stop doing that. And I've got a few that I do also, and I try really hard to get away from it, but it's hard because my number one concern is the content. So if I have an idea I'm trying to get across, I try to get the idea across first. If I can do it while also policing how I talk, I'll do that too. But I can't fix everything. So it's like, hey, you know something? Make it as good as you can and then move on. Hammond Egger. How do you pick which stories to use? I've sent about 12 and you only used one of them. There's no science to it, and I'm not even very good at it. I say that because I'll put up a video that I'm convinced is going to do well and it'll tank. And I'll put up one that I'm like, I'll do this one. And right off the charts. I have no idea. But I can tell you one thing. If you're thinking about sending me an idea for a video, don't send me a link to a video. Because number one, I get so many I can't watch them all. And number two, I'm not going to do a video about someone else's video. I'll do a video about a story that's in the news or a video about something that's on the internet that I can look at. But I'm not going to tell people I watched this video and now I'm doing a video because it just sounds odd. So if you find something that's interesting, even in a video, try to find a link to the news story it's based on and send me that link because I can glance at the headline, number one, and see what it's about and read it if I want to. I have a lot of people send me nothing but a link and it'll say, watch this with a video. I'm not going to bother. Sorry, I don't do that. So try to put in the title, the subject line regarding, crazy person at Walmart or driving without a license or something, and then put a link to the story. But just, if you watch the videos I do, you can generally see what types of things I talk about. So Daniel Kester, the radio station I grew up with was KSYC in Eureka, California. We called it KSIC. I know that there's WHMI in Howell, Michigan. They call it Whammy Radio. Whammy Radio. Momentum. My overuse was so anyway. Well, yeah, and doing talk radio, it's tough. And I know I've got a few, but I just like I said, I'm working on it. So. Welsh Dragon 99, I'm off. All the best. Everyone stay safe out there. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. Nick Barchet says, Alaskans can also make our state with our hand a thumbs down with index finger extended and the rest of the fingers extended to the big knuckle. You're like this? I can kind of see that. Ellen Riddle, good afternoon, Steve. Good afternoon, Ellen. Thank you for checking in. Scott Baker, I've watched hundreds of live stream videos and you're doing great. Well, thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. Cotexista, WDGY, Wedgie Radio. Oh, boy. Half Nelson, do you know the story of the 1970 Dodge Challenger, the Black Ghost? Yeah, and I'm not quite sure what the deal is. I've watched the video and some guy had a 70 Dodge Challenger. Okay. It wasn't the only one made. I never quite understood what all the hubbub was about. Sawyer, ever done a lemon law case of the motorcycle? Yes, but no. Michigan does not have a lemon law that covers motorcycles, but other laws do. I've had clients with defective motorcycles I've gotten bought back by the manufacturers under the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act. So generally speaking, you've got a defective brand new motorcycle that fails under warranty so many times, like 3 or 4 times in the first year or two. there's a good chance we can get it bought back, but it's not as easy as a lemon law case with a car. So I have done it, gotten some very expensive bikes bought back for some really, really weird things, because motorcycles, I mean, let's face it, are not as complicated as cars. So if you've got a motorcycle with an oil leak, explain to me why they can't find the oil leak and fix it. It ain't that hard. And I had a very, very expensive Italian motorcycle, shall we say, bought back because they could not make the oil leak go away. So Ron Rogers says, if I drop trout, I can show you Florida. Exactly. David Peterson says there was a radio station in Minneapolis, WLOL. The question is, did they have those call letters before the internet? Because I think LOL was an invention that basically was at least popularized by the chat rooms. Cameron L. Can't wait to see more Vin Wiki stories featuring Mr. Lehto. You should be seeing 9 more eventually. Daniel Kester says that the town of Wairika is pronounced Huayrica. Huayrica. I did not know that. I would not have known that. I was guessing Eureka, but we have a town in Michigan called Ypsilanti, and it's YPSI and pronounced Ipsy or Yipsy. Some people say. I was guessing that the Y was pronounced like you, like Eureka, but Wairika. Okay, I'll believe you. If you tell me it's true, I'll believe you. JP says there's a radio station here with the caller is WBBQ. Doug Jones asks a question that's been asked by many people. How did it ever get to be that the manufacturers have got to pay the legal fees in a lemon law case when they've got those lobbyists? Once in a great while, legislation will come along that is so popular that even the biggest lobbyists can't stop it. And the first lemon law in America was passed in Connecticut, not California, but in Connecticut. And it got passed in Connecticut by some extremely active legislators. I forgot it was the governor or some legislators who spearheaded the action. But they got the lemon law passed. And remember that in Connecticut, the car companies don't have the same power they do in Michigan. And it got passed in Connecticut, and then it started spreading across the country. And by the time it was proposed to be the law in Michigan, car companies couldn't stop it. So they tried to water it down, but the lemon law, for the most part, is still a pretty good, a pretty good law, and keeps me working. JP says that WBBQ is in Augusta, Georgia, which makes sense. Ed G, what is your opinion on a solar trickle charger for a vehicle you don't drive all the time? Do you have to leave the car parked outside? I've not seen those. I don't know anything about them. So I apologize. I don't know anything about them. Betty Boop. Why did you choose lemon law? Where's the slaw recipe? I chose lemon law because it was a way to talk about cars at work. What else am I going to do? I could have gotten into auto accidents, I guess, but that's not the same. So, and the slaw recipe is coming. One of these days, I'm going to do a cooking video. I will. I should actually just do the cooking show in here on a live stream one day. I have a hard time reading this while I was doing it. Duncan Campbell, hey Steve, sorry I'm so late. Did your time move? We just started daylight savings time, so we just moved our clocks. I had 1 hour. Sorry. I know. I forgot. Does Australia do that, or does they do it at a different time? Troy Neva. Hey Troy, how you doing, man? Troy's a good friend of mine. Doesn't check in as often as he ought to. But he often texts me and says, hey, Steve, great video. And I appreciate that. Troy says, I use a solar charger on my boat, which works great. I recommend it. And Troy, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is a tech guy, meaning that this guy knows his tech stuff. So if Troy says it works, I'll take that to the bank. So he uses a solar charger on his boat, which works great. He recommends it. And of course, the interesting thing about boats is that quite often people who've got boats don't use them every single day. So if you use your boat, like when it's sunny out in Michigan, well, that's 5 months out of the year, every other weekend. So there might be times where it's sitting there and you need something to keep it charged. There you go. Solar charger on your boat. Thanks, Troy, for checking. I appreciate that. Ellen Riddle, where did you drive your Viper the other day? I drove it to Birmingham to a Cars and Coffee at Pasteiner's on Woodward Avenue. And I like hanging out at that place. Doug Jones, Steve got tired of chasing ambulances. Now, I've never done personal injury work ever. I've handled like 1 or 2 cases, and it just somebody asked me to, and they couldn't get anyone else to take it, and I did it, and I was sorry I did. So I don't like personal injury cases at all. I know attorneys who do. And by the way, just so you know, I am friends with a guy I know, just coincidentally, a guy I know is the best personal injury auto negligence attorney in the state of Michigan, possibly the entire Midwest. He's a guy I know. So if you ever get involved in a car accident in Michigan, send me a note and I'll send you to my friend. He'll take care of you. So Joel Kirschman, I'm super late today. Hope everyone is well. I had a fun day of storm chasing in the Texas Panhandle yesterday. Saw 3 tornadoes. Wow. You know, I know about these storm chasers, and it takes a certain kind of person to do that. But the great thing about that is that you saw 3 tornadoes. Most of us will never see a single one in our entire lifetime, and we'll be happy. So, yeah, Duncan Campbell says we are leaving daylight savings in a few. That's right. You guys are in the other way, so you guys go the other. Yeah, so you guys are about to go into the winter from the summer. So that makes complete sense. So, John Parks, do you know Perry Mason or Matlock? I'm familiar with their work. Tom, have you ever thought about owning a motorcycle? Not really, but I am thinking about getting a Honda Mini Trail. My friend Mark, I stopped by his place one day and he's got a Honda Mini Trail. You know, a mini trail. It's like a miniature motorcycle. And I'm like, oh my, when I was a kid, that was like a fantasy to have one of those. And he goes, here, fire it up. And we were ripping around the parking lot in this little mini trail. It was so much fun. I'm like, oh my, I got to get one of these. I wouldn't ride that on the road though. I'd ride it around my yard and stuff, but that'd be fun. Hauptmann says, you mentioned a lawyer you knew that had a twin engine plane. His name wasn't Ewell, was it? The guy whose name was Errol. It's close. I wonder, did you spell that correctly? Errol? But my friend Errol was an attorney, and it's been a few years since I talked to him. But twin engine airplane he kept out of Pontiac. Burl Osborne, Shut Up and Rock, Snowy Geneva, New York, 101.7. Shut up and rock. Thank you for checking in. Is it really snowing for you guys right now? Wow. David Peterson, best storm chaser license plate. Got cows? John Parks reminds that motorcycles need a driver's license of their own. Yes, they do. Steve Brennan says you can get a street legal dirt bike on Amazon. It's not that I want a dirt bike. It's just that a Honda Mini Trail, which is like a miniature motorcycle, is just so neat that they took everything and shrunk it down, and a grown man my size can ride it. There's something about it. You know, you can pick it up, put it in the back of a car. You know, you could zip around. Kids could ride it. I mean, I don't know. It was just, I was reminded of being a kid, seeing those. I wish I had one of those. And now that I'm older, I can afford one. Hadn't even thought about it in so long, you know. G Keyman 565. Hello to Steve Lehto and all the rest. Thank you for checking in, my friend. I'm wondering how many people here will admit that they overshot by an hour because they forgot to set their clocks right. 1J Twister says those are called pocket bikes, I think. Yeah, as opposed to a rocket bike, pocket bike. But yeah, no, they're just neat, you know. 90 knots. The news during storms is more of a drinking game. That's one of the things, you know, about news stations, and some are worse than others, but there's several stations in a market, and they think that they are competing heavily. What they'll often do is they'll oversell the weather. You know, like, oh my gosh, everyone's going to die tomorrow. Tune in at 11. You know, really. Scott Baker, does Jeffrey Feiger still practice in Detroit? Yes, I believe he does. I have not seen him in the news all that much lately, but Jeffrey Feiger became synonymous with the huge jury verdicts. And there was a period of time where he was just nothing but gigantic verdicts in the news. And I've known people who worked at his office. Actually, his office is right down the street from my office. And at one point, he ran for governor of Michigan. Very, very interesting guy. I've met him. Very, very nice guy. I really respect the guy. I know some people don't like him because he rubs some people the wrong way. But, you know, the guy gets results. And I am a firm believer that if you got one job and you get results doing that job, you got to kind of forgive some of the other stuff. So. FDSS says the news says the storm's coming all the time, which is good for grocery stores. I saw a clip of the time period leading up, I believe, to Storm Sandy, Hurricane Sandy, which wound up hitting New York hard, right? But it blew by Florida, but it didn't hit Florida that hard. And I saw a clip of a newswoman on a local station standing at a Home Depot. Place was empty. And she goes, right now, this place is empty, but it's going to be a madhouse shortly. Stay tuned. Says who? You can predict the future? Report the news. Okay, the place is empty. It's empty. It's good news. But she didn't like that. So she goes, no, it's going to be a madhouse soon. Says who? You know. Kotax Easta says, I don't change my clocks. I have a few on daylight savings time, a few on standard time, and the computers do it themselves. Yeah, you know, I've got a bunch of clocks I had to actually change. I have a thing about time because I'm always trying to stay conscious of when my videos go up because I set them. I upload them. And, you know, this one goes live at 9. This one goes live at noon. And I don't actually manually start those. They just go up on their own. So if I can, I'd like to glance at my phone to make sure they go up on time. So I've got clocks in a bunch of rooms I didn't have clocks in before. Specifically, so I'm always aware of the time, even though I've got a watch on my wrist. Sometimes I forget I'm looking around for a clock. So William Burnett had a 90cc Honda Mini Trail or a Honda Trail in 1967. Gary Weisenberger, what was your first law assignment? Mine was writing an employee manual for us. That's funny. I don't know what my first assignment was, my very first. But I can tell you that within a week or two of being licensed to practice law, I did a trial. Now, it was a bench trial, but I did a full-blown bench trial. And it's a very, very strange situation for me to describe because what happened was I was working with another attorney who had a client who owned a bunch of rental units scattered about southeastern Michigan. And it was an eviction case. And there was a client who hadn't paid rent. So they were going to get an order to evict this person and then damages for the, you know, money damages. And the attorney I was working with said, congratulations, Steve. It's going to be your first trial. Sent me on my own. No, I was at the desk with the client and had a couple witnesses testify, did some cross-examination, openings, closings, a whole shooting match, and won the trial. So it's kind of cool. Like say, yeah, I won my first trial. But I can also tell you that not too long after that, I had a jury trial, and it was in Royal Oak. And I remember this vividly because it was my first jury trial. And it was a 3-day long jury trial. And Dwayne Beeman, who's a good friend of mine, who doesn't drop in here very often, but he often comments my videos. And Dwayne Beeman's an attorney who represented one of the defendants. And I told some stories about this before, but it's kind of fun because I did this full-blown jury trial. And at the end of the trial, the judge invited the attorneys back into his chambers. We were just chit-chatting, which is a common thing. And afterwards, I said, guys, I just want to let you guys all know something. What's that? I go, this is my first ever jury trial. And the judge actually looked at me and said, you're kidding me. And I go, no, why? And he goes, you did really well. And I said, oh, thank you. But that's fun. So Ed G says, we got hit hard here in the Poconos by Sandy. We lost power for a week. Some people longer than that. Wow, I did not know that it got that far inland, because that's a ways in, isn't it? The Poconos? Wow. The Fuse Man says, no adjustment knob on a sundial. Can't you just rotate the whole bird bath or no? Gerald Thompson says Honda S90 in 1966. Learn to ride in the snow, but don't use the front brake. Oh, they don't have ABS, do they? And you learned. I've ridden a mountain bike, obviously, quite a bit. Somebody commented earlier and said, "Hey, Steve, you I saw what you did in your mountain bike with your face. You want a motorcycle?" No, I'm talking about just buzzing around the yard or the grass. Not actually, any place tricky. Bob says retirement should mean I never have to look at a clock again, but it didn't work out that way. Daniel Kester's got a Blu-ray player, a TV, a Roku, a tablet, and 2 phones. All have clocks that change automatically. Yeah, most of them do. That's the funny thing. Like I actually, I'm looking at my computer here, my phone, my iPad. I got 2 desktops in my office, TV sets, the cable, but I had to do my stove and my microwave and a couple of the mechanical clocks that have batteries in them. Like I said, I got a couple that I've got scattered around that I had to actually, move the thing on. So. Daniel Kester says, that's funny. The only time I was selected for jury duty, the attorney representing the winning side was his first ever. Did you find it out before or after? I hope he didn't tell you before. Oh, boy. Tom, hey, Steve, got to go. Thanks for great entertainment. Well, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate that. Sean Malay says, I had to set my stove watch and insulin pump. All else is automatic. The insulin pump, is that a primitive? Or is that just they just do that? Maybe you don't trust that being all automatic, huh? FDSS, I heard there's a case of them trying to drop the time change. Well, there's been some noise made recently about people trying to do away with daylight savings time, but I don't know if that'll ever happen or not. We'll see. Vernon Turner, what? No Wi-Fi for the stove? Yeah, and I don't have a Bluetooth toaster either. Yeah, my old Explorer, I'll have to reset the clock on, and my Viper, I had to reset the clock on. So I just realized I've got actually the Viper was driven yesterday, so I didn't reset it yet. I will though. I know how to. Michael Goodwin votes to get rid of daylight savings time. Jason Johnson thinks I'm wrapping up. Blah, blah, blah says, I'm surrounded by clocks. Multiple sources of time in every room. Jordan also says that some provinces have done away with DST. Oh, there's some states in America that have. There's some sections. It's a patchwork, but I think we still have it in Michigan, so I can tell you. FDS says, I noticed no one's mentioned the clocks on the fridge. I don't have a clock on my fridge. Fred Crowder says, thank you, Steve. Dixie Champagne's got a Wi-Fi oven. But what about a Bluetooth toaster? I want a Bluetooth toaster. Michael Goodwin says, Steve, could you imagine an old-time clock store on days like today? When I was growing up, my mom collected antiques, and we had four clocks in the living room and dining room and the den that were the type that wound, that had a pendulum, and that had the dingers. And so they would count the number at the top of the hour and then ding once at the bottom of the hour. And so at noon, it would ding 12 times. And then, of course, at 11, it would ding 12 times. So 11 times, then 1 at 11:30, 12 times at noon or midnight. And that happened all day. And you got used to it. And the weird part is that there was different clocks. They're mechanical. So they'd all go off at slightly different times. Just got used to that racket. I learned to sleep through it. So Ed G says the Poconos are in the northeast area of Pennsylvania. Don't they run up into New York also? Or no? What am I thinking about? It's been a long day, what can I tell you? No, I'm joking. It's not that long just yet. Poconos. Oh, I don't know why I always thought they ran up further into New York or something. So, okay, I learn a lot of stuff every Sunday. Bob blah blah says your phone can text you to let you know that your ice cubes are frozen, your clothes are dry. Yeah, I want the day to get where the toaster becomes self-aware. Oh, ZKR9 says the Catskills. That might be what I'm thinking of. Jason Johnson, remember calling 1212 for time from Ma Bell. 555-1212. Yeah, you used to be able to call at the tone. The time will be 11:35 exactly. Beep. At the tone, the time will be 11:35 in 5 seconds, or whatever, So, Gary Weisenberger, I have a 60-year-old watch that is 1 to 12 and 13 to 24. Is it a 24-hour face? Breitling actually makes watches like that, and I actually couldn't wear it. It would give me a headache because noon would look like 6 o'clock, and it would throw me off. Michael Doherty, text the toaster, clean me. I remember the episode of Married with Children where they got in a fight over the toaster leavings because there's so little food in the house that when somebody discovered there were crumbs at the bottom of the toaster, they'd fight over who got to eat them. Kotex, he says 555-1212 is directory assistance. Well, what was the time number? They're Married with Children. Yeah, Donnie D says you can still call for the time in my area, but what's the phone number? Brian Bell, it's my birthday. Thank you for the awesome videos, consistent uploads. Well, thank you, my friend. Happy birthday to you. I appreciate that. Your birthday's March 14th, so you get to share it with Pi. Nick Barchet, 555-1234. Huh. Okay. 411 was information. Yeah, that I think that came later, though. Michael Goodwin, the Bluetooth fire detector. You get a text from home that says, I'm on fire. Oh, boy. Well, anyways, that's going to do it. We've been here for over an hour and a half. Now I'm trying to remember what the number was for time when I was a little kid. So I will talk to you guys again next weekend, same time, same place. Until then, 2 videos a day, 9 and 12 prevailing time. And of course, there will be more videos coming up of me on VinWiki. I don't know yet, but when I find out, I post them on Facebook, I post them on Twitter, and I do share them on my channel. So if you subscribe, you'll get notices. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.